You tune into 101.9 Interstate Live Radio, and you're with Elena Sanders with the Commissioner's Report. I'm excited to be with you today, and as I stated, that we are going to do this every second and fourth Wednesday and some conversations in between. But let me tell you, this is a conversation in between that needs to be had that many are not aware of. Let's talk today. Let's converse. And I want to hear your feedback as well. Let's talk about voter suppression. Voter suppression. As you heard that ding, the topic is voter suppression. Right here in the state of Georgia, the Georgia Senate has introduced 9 new voter suppression bills determined to make it difficult to vote by mail or vote in a runoff election. You know, we make noise here in Georgia. We made history. We've opened some doors. We opened some eyes. Many eyes were definitely on Georgia from across the world, not just the nation, from across the world. And we have showed the nation that if we come together, that word if we come together, we can make a difference, which is one of my mottos. If we come together, we can make a difference as a team. But this unprecedented attack is led by the following Republican Georgia senators: Jeff Mullis, Bill Hickman, Brandon Beach, Bruce Thompson, Butch Miller, Larry Walker III, Max Burns, Sheila McNeil, Steve Goosh, Tyler Harper. Senator Mullis is the proud primary sponsor of 5 of these horrendous bills. Now, this has nothing to do for me dealing with Republican and Democrat. It just has to do with a nation as a whole, as a state as a whole, as a resident in this state of Georgia for over 20 years. Voter suppression. We have the right to vote. And because so many came out to vote during this 2020 election and open up so many eyes that if we get up and band together, we can make a difference. Now there's a problem. Let me introduce to you some of these bills. We have the SB 29, requires 2 sets of photo ID to vote for absentee. I want to read that again. Requires 2 sets of photo ID to vote absentee. So I want to go through the steps. This year, the last election, our Secretary of State in his office made it a lot easier for people to be able to do absentee voting. It all came from the COVID-19, the pandemic, but it was successful. It was very successful. You were able to go online because if you're already a registered voter, they have all of your information. So all you had to do was identify yourself to have that ballot sent to your home, vote, either turn it back via mail or place it in a ballot box that may be instructed by one of your Board of Elections or where the locations may be. And people voted safely and was able to cast their ballot. Also, those who may not be in the state of Georgia but are students who are still registered, military who are still registered in the state, were able to cast their votes safely and were able to track their votes because there were so many devices, so many networks, so many mechanisms to where you can actually track your vote either via phone, get a text message. You can go online to see if they received your application, received your ballot, to see if it's cast. I'm telling you, the whole process was flawless. But because this process worked and determined our next president of the United States, our next vice president of the United States, and people were actually getting out to vote, now there's a problem. So by having 2 sets of photo ID, let's break down this process. So now you can't, what they're trying to do is to stop you from being able to go online and to apply for your application. Just go and put in your information, verify who you are. Now you have to send in with that application 2 forms of photo ID. 2 forms of photo ID. What if someone only has 1 form, which is their driver license? What if they don't have another photo ID, or they work somewhere who does not provide an identification or may not be in school to get a badge from school that has their photo on it? So now that is stopping those from actually being able to vote absentee through the absentee ballot. Voter suppression. Let's move on. The SB 67 requires voter ID to request an absentee ballot. So you have SB 29 and SB 67 kind of go hand in hand. It requires 2 sets of photo ID to vote absentee. So in order to vote absentee, you got to have 2 sets. But in order to require an absentee ballot, it requires voter ID to request. Now, you had to submit all of that when you registered to vote from the beginning. So now you have to submit your ID again to make sure you get that ballot. So I'm assuming they want you to mail that in, or maybe they're going to have a scanning process. We don't know. This is all being introduced to try to be approved in legislation. Okay. So we have SB 68, bans all drop boxes. I'm going to repeat that again. Bans all drop boxes, which was the great thing here in our county, in the county that I reside, is that there were multiple drop boxes. One was at the sheriff's office, one was at the Board of Elections, in various areas to be able to reach the voter so they can drop off their ballots. Now, with one of them being by the sheriff's office, that is manned. And the other one being by the Board of Elections, that is manned as well. So now they want to ban the drop boxes to where you can drop off your ballot. Voter suppression. Let's move on. SB 69 ends automatic voter registration. What I was just talking about. Ends automatic voter registration. Stopping you from actually using what we are in this 21st century where we're in this digital day and age. So now they want to go back to the form and take it back to paper, which is going to stop a lot of people who may not have transportation, can't get to the mailbox, do various things. Things may occur, but they can go online and register. Or they're automatically registered. For instance, give you an example, for those who turn 18, can be automatically registered if they do their application for school or they do their financial aid. They can register through there. There's so many ways that those who turn 18 are able to be automatically registered. So they're trying to stop that. Why? Because we got out and we band together and we voted this past election. So they want to stop that. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of what's happening. I want to keep you abreast. Now we have SB 70, prohibits new Georgia voters from voting in the runoff election. So, if someone moves to Georgia, have all the credentials to be able to vote, they cannot vote in the runoff election if they did not vote in the primary. I want you to hear this. Voter suppression prohibits new Georgia voters from voting in runoff election. Now you're trying to take away their rights to tell them that they cannot vote. I want you guys to pay attention to what's happening here in our state, because why? We all banded together to make a difference. SB 71 ends no excuse absentee. Ends no excuse absentee. So you have to be either disabled, elderly, was informed that they're moving it from 65 to 75 years old, changing all of those formats just to stop you from voting. I'm here to tell you, my neighbors, we need to pay attention to what's happening behind closed doors. We need to pay attention to what's happening in our community. We need to pay attention to what's happening in our state. It is our civic duty. It is our obligation to pay attention. We live here. We pay tax dollars, property taxes, all those things we do that says that we are a citizen, we are a resident in our country, in our county, in our state. And it is our job to pay attention. I just had this conversation recently when someone informed me, well, I didn't know. I didn't receive that information. It's your duty to know. It's your job to make sure that you receive that information. You live here, and we cannot complain if we're not involved. They used to say, if you don't vote, you can't complain. I'm changing it up. We cannot complain if we're not involved. This is Elena Sanders with the Commissioner's Report.